Follow me for more recipes. Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is military winter survival skills. Stand by. Hey, before I forget, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Thanks. Alright, welcome back. So, not as much snow out here as I would have liked to see from a winter storm warning for a day or two. We got a few inches, but there's still enough out here to demonstrate a few military winter survival skills. Now, we brought out some military survival kit items to demonstrate skills for a winter scenario like the one we're in, to demonstrate shelter, fire, water, some food items, making some tools, signaling, and then a few other military survival skills or techniques that we can use out here in the winter. Now, the first thing we're going to do is set up a shelter, and this type of shelter is called a commando shelter. This tool is called a SPAX, and we're going to use that to help construct our shelter. Now, there are no perfect shelter locations in survival, and often we have to work with what we're given. Using this tool, we can clear away the debris from the forest floor, knock down small shrubs, and make this shelter location suitable for the commando style shelter we're going to use. Now for this type of shelter, we're going to use two different ridge lines. One for the back side, which is going to be our poncho, and then one for the front side that's going to have our thermal blanket or our casualty blanket. The point of this shelter is to have a gap right at the ceiling to keep the heat in, but to allow the smoke from our fire to escape. Parachute cord is one of the best cordages for winter survival. Not tying and having the cordage ready to go as a ridge line pays off in the end when setting up shelter. We can hang the cord up around our fingers and then just put it in our trucker stitch against the tree to keep it out of our way and ready for use later. It's windy out today, so setting up the shelter is taking a little bit extra work to figure out that sweet spot to anchor down the sides of the shelter. Zip ties are always in my survival kit. We can use them for a variety of things, but they make excellent improvisational attachment points for our shelter. Bungee cords are another excellent tool to establish anchor points fast. Alright, so we have the beginnings of our commando shelter. This is a great shelter for cold weather environments. We're going to use the casualty blanket as a windbreak, and it doubles as a reflector since we have that mylar facing the inside of our shelter. Our poncho is going to be our roof and our backstop. It's at a very steep angle, and the reason for that is that we want this shelter enclosed as much as possible, but we want this gap right here that I'm standing in to allow smoke from a small fire to escape while keeping some of that heat inside and reflecting off of our casualty blanket. Once again, fire safety, making a fire pit with sandstone rocks to contain a fire, even though we're just demonstrating simple survival skills. Accidents do happen. Using our SPAX, we collected enough debris to make a simple bed. This, plus our poncho liner, the best military invention ever created, will make an excellent sleeping platform. The SPAX is an excellent tool.
However, one needs to be aware of the pickaxe end on the opposite side of the axe head that can grab clothing and make swinging it difficult.
Now with our commando shelter, we want to get as much debris as we can to close up the sides. We have our reflector on one side and we have our poncho roof on the other side with our gap up top to let the smoke escape from our fire. But we've got to plug these ends up to enclose that shelter and contain as much heat as possible without letting the wind in to ruin our fire or make it uncomfortable for the night. All right, so we're at a good point where we can stop and take a look at some of the survival items that we brought with us today. And before we finish with the shelter, there are a few fire starters I want to demo inside the shelter for you guys to see. So we have multiple ways and unique ways to start fire. But let's talk about tools real quick. The primary tool we brought out here is a SPAX. Now SPAX is just shovel, pickaxe, and axe and or knife, I guess. And this is a tool used in modern army for breaching and for air crews to cut themselves out of a wreck or out of the airplane fuselage if they have to. So this is a breach tool as well as an extraction tool, but it's also a survival tool because this is modeled after World War II aviator survival axe that was part of their kit at that time. If they got shot down and needed something to survive with, they had this axe and they can use it for all of those same purposes. Now what makes this tool unique, besides the fact that it's got a very unique style bit without a beard or a heel so much that we can use this part as a knife, use this as a hatchet. We've got our pickaxe right here that we can dig into the earth with. This is made out of 1095 steel, which means that we can take a piece of shirt or a hard rock and get sparks off of this to ignite charred material. Now what we've done with this, so you can see, taken a file and removed the coating or the black coating on portion of the axe head. That way we can hold up tight on it, grab a rock, and get sparks off of it. And then done the same thing to the spine, closer to the handle. And that is so we can have a 90-degree spine on our SPAX, take our ferro rod, and get sparks off of our SPAX just using this simple tool. So we've taken this basic breach tool or old survival tool that air crews use and turned it into an awesome military survival tool, the SPAX.
We should always find ways to improve our situation or to make our tools even better. Putting a 90-degree edge on the spine of the SPAX is one of those ways. It was out of sheer curiosity testing the SPAX with a piece of shirt to see if it could produce sparks and turn just this single tool into a multi-tool option.
Now, the set of tools that we have out here that are unique for military survival are military snowshoes. Now, not only can we walk on the snow with this, but these are made out of magnesium, meaning that we can take our SPAX, and because it's got that 90-degree edge at the top of the axe on the head, and then even down here near the handle, we can use it to scrape the body of one of our snowshoes to make a pile of magnesium shavings that we can take our ferro rod with and then ignite to ignite marginal tinder that we may have gathered that may be covered in snow and get a fire going.
The SPAX is turning out to be an excellent tool. Collecting the magnesium shavings in our shemagh, we can safely transport them to the tinder bundle and get it ready for ignition. I was once the scout platoon leader in a light infantry airborne unit, and something I picked up from the scouts and the snipers in the platoon was carrying small tools like this folding saw or even small pruning shears to take down material and use it for camouflage, but also for survival purposes.
Now, one of the best fires to have, at least in cold environments, especially with a lot of snow on the ground, is going to be that Swedish torch with our saw from our survival kit, and then our SPAX. We're able to process down a log like this, not more than a foot in length and about 5 inches in diameter, into 4 different sections that we can stack together and create a Swedish torch. It's going to be a fire that stands straight up off the ground, and we can actually cook on top of this very easily. Another score right here is cedar roots. There are a lot of cedar trees in this area, red cedar, and they have roots that spring out through the ground and kind of travel over distance. Very shallow root system that we can just find. Happen to trip over it in here, just making our shelter, and now we have cordage, natural cordage, that we're going to use on our Swedish torch to keep everything contained when we start our fire.
The Swedish torch is a method Scandinavian militaries use to keep a fire up off the ground, out of the snow, and easily cook food on top of and stay warm next to. The trick with a Swedish torch like this is lashing the base with some sort of cordage and then interlacing small material like twigs and sticks in the cross sections of the Swedish torch, building it up from the bottom to the top, and then igniting that material from the top so it eats away slowly down into the center of the Swedish torch, igniting the larger material. This resinous pine wood or fat wood will be the tinder we use to ignite, to begin the fire that will ignite our Swedish torch.
One thing we often have as part of a military kit is a mosquito net, and this is great, especially in winter environments when, even though the bugs are all gone, we can still use this to help us get water. All we have to do is fill this up with snow and take it back to camp, hang it near the fire, and it will melt that water into our container so that we can purify it. Easy method.
The sun will take care of most of the melting of our snow in the mosquito net, but it is a long process.
So if we're not using this for a water heater where we pour hot water inside our canteen and keep it close with us in our shelter through the night, one thing we should do is drink the water out of this at least to 3/4 or less, and then we take our canteen and our canteen cup and we flip it upside down inside of our shelter if we're not going to sleep with this thing. That way the top of the water is now at the bottom of the canteen. That will freeze and expand, and in the morning when we grab our canteen and pull it out, unscrew the lid, fresh water is going to be at the top of our canteen so we can drink it and we won't have to wait for that ice to melt. But that's just another helpful tip. Looks familiar, doesn't it?
Luckily, we have the debris from our last shelter from our previous survival overnight. We're going to use this to construct a lesser known survival tool.
Now, gathered up debris, no, not for our shelter. We're going to use these leaves to make what are called double socks.
This is why having a second pair of socks is incredibly useful. We can take that sock and fill it with debris. That'll be one of the first layers for our double socks. The Mylar blanket serves as a moisture-proof barrier between our foot in our first sock and the debris in our second sock. We cut the Mylar down to size so that it fits our foot in one complete wrapping, and then we can place our foot inside the second sock. Once we have both socks on, now we can take out our two military cravats, lay them flat, place debris on top of the cravat, and then our foot, and then wrap our feet completely, one and then the other, with the cravat and the debris to finish our double socks.
All right, double socks. Definitely wouldn't recommend stomping around the forest in these things, but this is a good technique to keep the feet warm, especially if we need our boots to dry out next to the fire for a while. Another reason to always have extra large socks, a second pair, and then some cravats, as well as a Mylar space blanket to make double socks. Just another way to help fight the cold, keep our feet warm, especially in a winter survival scenario. Now, with our double socks, a tip that I often recommend for just being out in the field and taking care of your feet is that if we know we're going to be marching for a long time, we're doing a lot of movements and maybe few and far between before we change out socks, is to have unscented deodorant like this with antiperspirant. We can rub this on our feet and help cut down on the amount of sweat in our boots, protecting our feet that much more. And then we just change out our socks. We can add a little bit more of this or some foot powder to help take care of our feet. But especially in a winter survival scenario, we're going to sweat a lot through our feet, and we want to take care of them as best we can. So I have two types of snow goggles here. One is just made from MRE trash and 100 mile an hour tape and paracord. We can just simply put these over our face while we're walking out on the snow to help limit the amount of sunlight that's hitting our eyes. We just have those tiny slits right in there and then a spot for our nose so we can wear these comfortably. Very easy to make from trash and then the stuff we have in our survival kit. Now, another pair of snow goggles we can make are wooden ones that we just carve off the landscape from a piece of material that we harvest using our survival knife and our saw, or our SPAX. We just carve them to contour our face, place them over, and what I like to do is go behind the ears and then down underneath the chin, tying a knot to keep these in place. I may have a lot of headgear on and limited cordage. I don't want to go all the way around my head and take up too much cordage, so just a little bit to go underneath the chin. And then I can get at this very easily too if I have a lot of clothing on or if I need to take it off quickly rather than reaching behind my head. Just undo the knot, pull them down, and they can hang right there. Easy enough, or we just take them off completely. But making snow goggles from the landscape like these and then going behind the ears underneath the chin to tie that knot is a lot easier, I find. All right, being a military survival kit today, we brought out a mystery or an MRE, meal ready to eat, and I'm going to show you a cool little recipe with this. Now, from our MRE, we're going to need the drink mix, whatever it is. This just happens to be lemon lime. And then if you get a pound cake, grab the pound cake. But this one is cornbread. Still good. It'll work out. We're going to need this and then just a little bit of our water. We're also going to want that spoon. Just take our drink mix, open it up. And we want to use just a little bit of water. Not much, hardly any. There you go. Just a little more. Just a little. Nice neon green color in there. That's good enough. And make ourselves a nice ooey gooey frosting. Spread that around. Nice little frosting for our pound cake. And that's how you make frosting for your MRE pound cake out of your drink mix. Let's give it a shot. That takes me back. Follow me for more recipes. Now, as far as getting ready to start our fire, I'm going to attempt to use our MRE matches, but did want to show you something first, is that the MRE match, we can split this and turn it into two. Digging our nail in here and peel it apart as best we can, and simply pull it like this. And once we get to the head, support it both fingers and simply pull it apart. And now we have two matches from that one MRE match.
With our MRE matches and our fat wood, it doesn't take long to start a fire on top of our Swedish torch and for that fire to burn down to the middle. The Swedish torch works fast. All the heat is concentrated upwards, heating the canteen cup and the water inside quickly.
Alright, last thing we'll do is take a look at all the items we brought out here for our kit today. We didn't use all of these items, but they are here for ideas, putting together a winter survival kit, especially for military items. Alright, so we've obviously got our snowshoes, we've got our cravats and socks for our double socks, MRE for chow, canteen cup, and then we've gone over our snow goggles here to help protect our eyes. We've got our SPAX right here, and then all our shelter items with our bungee cords, ridge lines, stakes, zip ties to use as alternate fixing points for our tarp. We've got a file here to sharpen up our SPAX. Life straw for a quick water filter to drink from an open source, survival knife, and then our folding saw. Our Mylar space blanket that we used for our double socks. We can also use for improvisation or for other shelter ideas. A hank of cordage, just a simple hank of cordage that we can use typically in mountaineering, but we can use this for a variety of purposes like hanging up our gear. Candle inside the shelter. Fresnel lens or Fresnel lens for fire lighting with the sun, lighter and duct tape, magnesium bar, stormproof matches, and our handy dandy ferrule. We've got a whole bag of Vaseline and cotton balls, our sewing repair kit, compass, mosquito net, and then our multi-tool. Always having a bunch of tools on us. And then down here we have headlamp, a handheld flashlight, just a small mag light, some chem lights, one for static positions, the other one for a buzz saw already configured, IR strobe, we've got our mirror, and then our orange panel, and then last is just a mini first aid kit in a soap dish, and we've got our poncho liner, and then our thermal on top of that. And this is the kit that we brought out here today. Alright guys, well, I hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me and for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.